Thanks, Rob. We are going to finish out the morning. I really am so proud and excited to bring along with me on this ride a man who is not just my co-author, but now my very good friend. Please join me in bringing to the stage retired Marine Colonel Mark Puck Mykleby. Uh-oh. When two mics collide, there we go. Bump. So I met this guy actually on stage at one of our VERGE events three years ago. And we spent a half hour talking on stage, and really the first time we had talked, brief conversation before that, and out came this amazing story about some work that Puck had done at the highest levels of the Pentagon for Admiral Mullen, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, in 2009, that was about how sustainability and prosperity and security came together. And it was like, wow, this is amazing. This grabbed the audience. It was just instantly something that I think anyone in sustainability gets and appreciates. And one of the things as we, along with, as I got to know Puck and his co-founder of the Strategic Innovation Lab, Patrick Doherty, we realized how different we all were, and we'd sort of come together as sort of amazing differences that, you know, he's from the heartland of Minnesota, I'm from the liberal Bay Area, he joined the Naval Academy and then the Navy and the Marines, I went to Berkeley, he was a fighter pilot over Bosnia and Iraq, I was a conscientious objector, anti-war activist, ended up writing about sustainability, and by the way, did I mention that I once did a book on Woodstock? So, very different. He's a Cancer Sagittarius writing, I have hair, just lots of differences, And yet we found that we had come to the exact same place, which is that sustainability must be the organizing logic for an economic revival for America.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Yeah. Go figure. I never thought I'd be staying on stage with this guy either. But, you never know who you're going to meet in life. So it was great. Yeah, like Joel talked about, first of all, I never want to go to the stinking Pentagon. Nobody wants to go there. It's called the five-sided puzzle palace for a reason. It's a freaking weird place. So I was happy down at Special Operations Command. This was 2009 and doing strategy there. And all of a sudden get this call, and said, hey, it's from my buddy, Navy Captain Wayne Porter, who was on Admiral Mullen's personal staff, been on, made man in Admiral Mullen's team for a number of years, and he said, hey, you need to come up here and help me with something. And I was like, well, what the hell is that? And he said, you got to help me write a grand strategy for the nation. Admiral Mullen wants one of those, and he picked you and me to go do this. So I was like, holy shit, what the hell do you want me to do with that? So next thing you know, I'm on a plane up in D.C. I thought it was only going to take 2 months and end up being a 2-year trail of tears, but there you go, there you have it. And Admiral Mullen literally just sat us down and said, gents, I'm worried about the direction that the country's going. What are we fighting for? What is, on any given trend line, we look at our physical condition, our economic condition, our political condition, our social condition, we're not trending in a positive direction. And I got to figure out why are we doing what we are doing? Because I'm here to tell you, Admiral Mullen, being the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the senior officer in the United States military, has significant leadership responsibilities. And he was the chairman for both President Bush and President Obama, has nothing as a uniform guy. We don't subscribe to one side of the aisle or the other. It's not our job. We swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States, piece of paper with a big idea. Think about that for a second. I think we're the only military in the world that signs up, swears an oath to an idea. Not a king, not a queen, not a political party, but to an idea. Pretty freaking special. Pretty special indeed. But when Admiral Mullen sat us down and said, gents, go figure out a grand strategy for the nation, the first kind of thing Wayne and I looked at was, kind of went back to Thomas Paine's, first page on that little book called Common Sense, written in 1776. Maybe you heard of it. Maybe we need another one, part 2 here in 2016. But the very first page, it said the cause of America is in a great measure the cause of all mankind. And so what Wayne and I did was not what Admiral Mullen asked us to do. We didn't write a grand strategy for the nation. Because we didn't think that the United States, and particularly American citizens, needed a new strategy rattling out of Washington, D.C. I mean, holy crap, we got plenty of strategies. We got strategies at go-go. They're coming out the wazoo. We got national defense strategy, national military strategy, national security strategy, national bike safety strategies. We have national health security strategies. We got strategies coming out the wazoo. What Wayne and I decided we were going to do, we wanted to write a story that would describe a new trajectory for this nation. We ended up writing this document. This is kind of where I got mixed up into this freaking lash up to begin with. I mean, I'm telling you, I was a Marine. Heads down, let's go get some Al-Qaeda, let's get the game on. But now I'm thrown into this strategy world. Well, you know what, we're problem solvers. And what Wayne and I looked at, if we're talking about on a national scale, containment, that old strategy of the Cold War is still alive and well, this control strategy that you needed force and power to take on the world. Well, that's a 20th century construct. It was a construct that delivered the goods when it came to our enduring interests of prosperity and security. It worked in the 20th century. Well, it's not working for us now. It's so bad, in fact, that right now we are expending our national prosperity in pursuit of some illusory condition of security that's mostly defined by our past and not our 21st century reality. And so what Wayne and I said is we got to get rid of that construct of containment and come up with something else that maps to our 21st century reality. And I'm going to say it, I'm going to say the word, it's, for a military guy in the Pentagon, it was like dropping the F-bomb in church, but we said sustainability was the big concept. That was the strategic construct, so we could pursue our enduring interests of prosperity and security as a systems logic. And it comes down to I'm here to tell you, and I don't want to bust on the thing, and Joel's probably sick of hearing me say this, but get rid of the frickin' green stuff. Sustainability is not just about green. It's not about being this lefty liberal thing. It's not about recycling. It's not just about climate change. It's about an organizing logic for the human condition, for this nation. As Joel says, from a gnat to a nation. And why is that? Because it maps directly to our enduring national interests of prosperity and security. The definition that we used was a scientific, ecological definition of an organism's ability to remain diverse and productive over time. Diversity, depth, redundancy, resilience. It's our national capacity to be able to take a gut punch and come back swinging. That's security 21st century style. And we also have to be productive. But that comes down to growth. But I'm here to tell you that the quantitative measurement of growth that we are so, GDP, oh God, we've got to get some more of that GDP, it's not working for us either. We take a look at what our economic condition is in this nation and how it translates into our social condition. That's why we said sustainability is so powerful. Because if we can go to a place where we start focusing more on qualitative growth, on the condition of our human beings and as citizens, now we're onto something. And oh, by the way, it happens to map to a quintessentially unique American way of doing grand strategy, a little wonky thing up on the screen there. But when we do grand strategy well, we stand in our economy. We let the economy do the heavy lifting. We align our governing institutions and foreign policy to take on the big global challenge of our age. That's the kind of tagline. But the big deal is that right now, our challenge isn't Russia. It's not China. It's not Iran. It's not something you can point at the map and play Stratego with. Our big challenge, and I had to use the word unsustainability. I know it's not a word, but you're dealing with a Marine, and I'm just proud that I got to use a 7-syllable word, not something Marines usually can do. So I'm growing up. I used a big boy word. Next slide. But global unsustainability. It's the big wicked problem of our time. Right? And get over the fact that, there are bad people out in the world. ISIS is out there. Tough shit. Right? Wrap your head in some bubble wrap and just get toughen up a little bit. Because the big challenge of our age is this thing of global unsustainability. And it's a big, huge, wicked problem. It's a Gordian knot where we have 4 big pillars that we got to deal with. Number 1 is economic inclusion. Now, everyone gets a sweaty lip about 9 billion people in the middle of the century, right? 9 billion people, what are we going to do? Well, holy shit, I'm scared about the 3 billion people we got to fold into the global middle class. Because when they arrive, their resource consumption goes up 300%, which leads us to pillar number 2, ecosystem depletion. Right now, it takes 1.5 planets to support the human condition. When that global middle class comes in the middle of the century, it's going to take 4.5 planets. Do the math. It doesn't work out. I don't need that many fingers and toes to figure it out. All right? And if you're waiting for this system, to get out of this great recession that we're in, well, I'm here to tell you we're not in a great recession. We're in a contained depression. What happened in 2008 is just as significant a deleveraging moment as what happened in 1929 with the Great Depression. The old system's not coming back. Get over it. And even if we could bring it back, it leads us to the 4th pillar. We're in a resilience deficit. We do not have the capacity to take the hits, particularly the ones that Mother Nature is going to start chucking our way with climate change, whether it's our infrastructure, whether it's our financial systems, whether it's our governing institutions. This is the wicked problem of our time, right? And thank you very much for the downer, but here's the freaking good news. We've got an opportunities way out because we are freaking Americans, and this is what we do. So over to Joel.
Such a hard act to follow. So there is a way, there is a system that we've used throughout history to align our economy with our foreign policy and our governance structures. And it's basically that we look for the demand, find the capital for it, we work out the stranded assets problems, and out of that comes the next wave of growth. This is something we've used during the run-up to World War II, after World War II, during the growth in the Cold War, to challenge those, take on those issues. Now, how do we do that with this wicked problem that Puck described with global unsustainability? So what's the demand? Well, there's three huge bins of demand. One for walkable communities. Between now and 2030, the boomers and the millennials are going to be colliding in the marketplace. Everybody wants to live, 60% of Americans, according to the National Association of Realtors, want to live in walkable communities, not just cities, but suburbs too. These sort of new urban suburbs. They want walkable, transit-oriented, experience-rich, service-oriented communities, and very little of the economic of the investment is going in that direction. This is a massive opportunity. First of all, it's 3 times the demand for housing that we saw after World War II, when we had 15 million GIs coming back to find places to live and set up what became suburbs and everything else. Huge amounts, and it's not just, as I said, in cities. There's this whole new trend to retrofitting the suburbs, creating walkable communities, new urban villages, town centers, and all of that. A massive demand for that. Second, for regenerative agriculture. What does that mean? Well, first of all, to feed these additional 3 billion mouths and all of us between now and 2050, according to the OECD, we're going to have to grow our food supply somewhere between 60 and 70%, and 100% of that needs to be done regeneratively, which means done in a way that doesn't pollute the water, deplete the soil, or send carbon up into the atmosphere. Regenerative agriculture, and it goes by a lot of names. It's not just organic. There's lots of different ways to do this. Cleans the water, enriches the soil, and sequesters carbon. And, by the way, it's very profitable for farmers. It's 3 times more profitability per acre. It's 30% more productive per acre during droughts. And if we do this well, we will regenerate, revive not just the soil and all of that, but farming in America. There's a lot of technology. Some of them we've talked about. There's the whole urban agriculture movement. But the average age of the farmer in America is almost 60. We need new farmers. How do we bring them into the fold? How do we create that market, that demand? There's a big opportunity there that we can do what we've always done best, which is to have this bounty, this rich cornucopia of food, and help feed the world. And 3, resource productivity. This is so much of what you do already. It's the clean energy economy, the circular economy, the bio-based economy, the sharing economy. This is all of that coming together to really boost what we do. And because we're going to have to create all this stuff, we don't have the resources. So how do we make much more stuff with a lot fewer resources? It's a revolution. McKinsey's written about this. They've shown multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar opportunities here for materials and distributed manufacturing and bio-based manufacturing, the new additive manufacturing. There is a lot that we can do here to revive manufacturing in America. Not the old style, not the dirty, what someone once called Big M manufacturing, but a new kind of manufacturing that brings the jobs back to communities, creates, all of this comes together to create not just better economies, not just better communities, but also more resilient communities and all of that. Capital and stranded assets, really quickly, there's a lot of money sitting out there. There's $3.5 trillion in unspent corporate capital. There's $10 trillion in hedge fund dry powder. There's $24 trillion in retirement accounts. There's another, I think, $7 billion in zero or negative interest bonds right now. And you notice that so far, we haven't even mentioned government money. This is not about government coming in to rescue. This is about the private sector stepping up to create this amazing opportunity. And then finally, the stranded assets. There's a bunch of those. We'll talk about one really quickly, which is sort of obvious and important to a lot of us in the room, which is unburnable carbon. These, again, trillions of dollars of investments in that oil companies have made, coal companies, that are many of which is sitting in pretty much all of our retirement accounts. Somehow, that if you can't burn them, if you leave them in the ground, we don't know the economic implications of that, but most people say it's basically doomsday economically. So we spell this out, the plan for all of this in the book. But instead of burning burning oil, we build with it. Right now, most people don't know this. About 18% of all the oil that's pulled from the ground is used to create plastics, advanced materials, carbon fiber, some of the things we've been talking about here. How do we flip that ratio so it's 80-20, where we're building things that not only are higher performing materials, but also supplant lumber, cement, aluminum, and steel, things that are much more energy, carbon, and water intensive. So again, big opportunities if we look at this holistically and put it all together.
And so, it's not lost on us that we're sitting here in Hawaii, Honolulu. I mean, when we think about grand strategy, most people always go to World War II, And when did World War II start? Well, yeah, it happened, it started in 7th of December 1941. Well, I'm here to tell you, probably not. Right answer. I was a history major. So you're going, man, Mykleby, you're an idiot. Well, no. What Joel just described was a business opportunity. When America does grand strategy, remember, we'd stand on our economy, right? Well, World War II, yeah, horrible event. And I get this all the time. It's like, well, America's never going to get anything going until we have another big event. Well, I tell you, how many big events do we have to frickin' have before we get off our ass and take it on, all right? Well, I'm here to tell you, World War II started a long time before 7 December 1941. It really started with the private sector when FDR said, man, this war is coming. And everybody's fighting me. Not only including the private sector, but also, believe it or not, the military. So we're not going to, what? That's not our problem. Well, yeah, what we got going on right now is our problem, just like back then. And guess what FDR did? He turned to the private sector to figure it out. In May 1940, he turned to Big Bill Knudsen, the president of General Motors, and said, I need to stand up this thing called the National Defense Advisory Committee. And I need you guys to figure out how can we get industry moving in a direction to get this nation ready to go to war. Because nobody else in Washington was going to do it. They wouldn't do it. Private sector had to do it, and they ponied up. And by the way, Big Bill found another partner with a Manhattan finance guy, Bernard Baruch, and they figured out this thing about Lend-Lease, shoving a whole crap load of cash towards a demand signal for war materials. Stranded assets at the time were labor and unused or underutilized industrial capacity. And so we matched this demand capital minus stranded assets thing, and we had a formula for success for World War II, right? And called it the arsenal of democracy. That's what it was. We fundamentally armed and equipped our allies. All at the same time, we built up our own military from a 458,000-man army to about a 15 million-man juggernaut to go fight a two-front war. And out of that private sector leadership that developed that arsenal of democracy, guess what? By the time 7 December 1941 happened, the United States industrial capacity, wartime industrial capacity, was approaching that of Nazi Germany. By 1943, we were outproducing Great Britain, Germany, and the Soviet Union combined. And by the end of the war, everything that the Allies used, 70% of it to win the war, came out of an American factory. 70%. It's huge. It's massive. And oh, by the way, this was the framework. This economic foundation is what launched what we now call the greatest generation. But I'm here to tell you, our greatest generation better not frickin' be in our past. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at our greatest generation right now because guess what? We better reach down and find not only the courage, find the guts, and find the frickin' grit to get it on. Because the scale of the problem that we face is so much more massive than what they faced in 1941 through 1945. All right? I love the greatest generation. I'm a card-carrying member of their club, but I refuse to believe that our best is in our past. Can we find that capacity to come together? I think we can. I would also say that we must. We've talked a lot about unifying in this conference. Okay, let's go frickin' do it. What are you prepared to do? What are you prepared to give up? Who are you prepared to go play kissy face with to get shit done? Well, I'm telling you, I know somebody I'm playing kissy face with, so.
I mean, that was really one of the big ahas for me. There were a bunch of ahas for me in this book, and it was really extraordinary to have this experience with this guy, but also with and Patrick Doherty, our third co-author. But it seems that we've forgotten how to think big and do big. We used to know how to do that. That was something, as Puck showed us, that was part of who we were and what we do. And when we do think big, or we used to think big and do big, we looked to our leaders to do that for us. And there were those moments where we just decided we need our leaders to think big and do big. This is not one of those moments. Our leaders are not stepping up. This is the moment that everyone in this room, in this state, in this country, needs to step up, whatever that means in your life, in your business, in your community, in your nation. And I think that what's surprising is what happens when we do that. I mean, I think that this partnership is one example of these odd fellows coming together. This proud Marine and, I don't know, Superfly there, whoever that is on the right, coming together with this completely opposite directions and finding this common ground. Well, one of the things that this book spoke to me, or Puck spoke to me when I first met him, is that, and I've been talking about this for a decade, is that we don't have any leaders in this country, business, political, culture, who can tell a compelling story of what happens if we get things right. We know what happens if we get things wrong. Thank you, Al Gore and Bill McKibben, Rachel Carson. Thank you, all of them. They were sounding the alarm, critical information that got us, many of us here, where we are today. But we haven't had anyone telling a story of success, of job creation, economic development, housing security, job security, energy security, water security, and how that spins out to community resilience, regional resilience, national resilience, and what it really means to be prosperous. What does it really mean to be secure? And of course, what does it really mean to be sustainable? That's the story that grabbed me. They had this story. Puck gave birth with Wayne Porter at the Pentagon 6-7 years ago, that story. And that's the story that's now our story. And I think it needs to be all of our story. That's going to be the story for the rest of my career, of how prosperity, security, sustainability come together, led by business. That's the other thing that I love about this story, is that it brings together the best of the progressive left with the conservative right, by business, for profit, and Washington can lead, follow, or get out of the way. Notice we haven't talked any about government programs here. This is about business. This is what we need to be doing now.
And it's also about being a freaking citizen, right? This little document here is pretty kind of special. I mean, it's kind of like our user manual. The Constitution is kind of the user manual for the United States, and the preamble is kind of the quick start guide, right? I just want to point out the very first words. A pluribus unum is, it's not just for bumper stickers and dollar bills anymore, right? It says right up there on the front, first words, preamble of the Constitution, we the people of the United States, we the people. It doesn't say freaking waiting on Washington. It says, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and most importantly, secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Our freaking posterity. We get so wrapped up in what our current day is. What about your kids? What about your grandkids? Right? That's our moral obligation. This is not, these words that are on this document, they are important. Because not only do they provide the promise, they articulate the promise of this country, they also articulate our obligation, just like Joel was just talking about. This is on us. This is our burden. All right? Nobody else is going to do it. It's also our opportunity. And I just always want to point out that Hubert Humphrey reminded us that those 6 words, those are action words, you know? In order to form, establish, ensure, provide, promote, secure. They don't just those are words that are calling us all to action as a unified people, as a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't want it to wither and die and perish from this earth, we better get off our asses as a common front. Get rid of your frickin' ideologies. And I'm not just talking to you. I mean, you guys already get it, so come on, work with me here, right? But get rid of our frickin' ideologies. This election cycle this year, I mean, it's a frickin', you know, I hate to use it, it's a huge disaster, right? We can't afford to waste another 4 years. That means that we, as citizens, have to pony up. That's what this document tells us to do, right? And just go back to Thomas Paine, where he says, you know, the cause of America is in a great measure the cause of mankind. Well, I'm here to tell you that sustainability as our national cause in our here and now in our 21st century, but most importantly, as we look over the horizon at our kids' and our grandkids' future, that's a frickin' cause that I'm here to tell you, it subscribes to the best and brightest traditions of this country. It also is a cause that is more than worthy of our kids and our grandkids. And I'm also here to tell you that if we, this government, this body of citizens coming together, if we embrace that cause, we will in a complete measure be taking on the cause of all mankind. So thank you. Thanks for hearing us out.
Thank you.